I broke my brand new laptop.
This is going poorly. Today we're talking about The Many Saints of Newark, which I was legitimately accidentally calling All Saints Day. We watched Sopranos growing up a lot, but out of the both of us, you're probably a more Sopranos expert. So anytime we come to the lore or canon or a reference that I don't get, we're gonna definitely refer to you. Okay, so like we mentioned in our Night of the Living Dead review, we watched a lot of VHS growing up. That was our thing, and we rented the Sopranos VHS. It was like a season, and it was like this thick of tapes, if I remember. One has an episode or two, maybe.
I think it was 2 or 3.
So that was our introduction to it. And we were watching, I was watching this so young that I think I told you this like a year ago, that the characters and the world of Sopranos, because it was so different than everything else that we had seen, it's violent and realistic enough that it came off to me as real. And I didn't necessarily believe that it was a real story and real people, but it just, for some reason, occupied a place here somewhere in little kid potato mush brain of this has happened, this is real or whatever. But I had not finished the show. And so I think around 2011, we got a house and we were like furnishing it with stuff and whatnot. And I saw the final two seasons or two part of the last bit. And I was like, all right, I'm buying those. That's going to be the first stuff we stock our shelves with. So then I watched the end of the show and I'm very familiar with that last chunk of show, like the last 2 seasons. Very familiar with it. And then like the first 3 episodes. But like everything else has faded away in my memory. But I know the main bullet points. But I think it's probably a lot the other way around, if I'm not mistaken, right?
The middle, I know the beginning through the middle very well. It is honestly that last season that was split to 2 that I don't know nearly as well as you do. Well, let me just say I don't really like the beginning of the series so much as like the middle. Middle's really solid, really sweet, really in the flow of it. The beginning, especially the pilot, which a lot of people really like, to me felt just shit compared to the rest.
Are you saying it's a tone? Like the beginning has a specific tone and then they find their stride?
They definitely find their stride, like not even in season 1. It's like season 2 when they got picked up, to keep going for a second season. That's where it just like takes off.
Okay.
And they found their tone of the entire show.
We both, I'm sure, know this, but the show was supposed to be severely based around him and his mother, like a lot.
Yeah.
But then, she dies. So it changes the tone of the show. And there's a shift there where they had established all this backstory. And there's all that between her and Junior. Where she's basically, it feels a little bit like she's the boss early on, like she's really calling the shots because of
she definitely was.
History. Yeah. And so then that changes all of a sudden, and then they have to do their best to work around that. And I'm wondering, we just watched the All Saints Day, so now how does this fit with both versions of that show where it wanted to be this and it had to be this?
Like the lore as far as you're saying?
Because I think they stitched it together.
They did, because just jumping into some parts of All Saints Day, when Johnny went to prison, Junior's like, oh, I'll step up and be around. And there felt like that little bit of weirdness, like they might have even had a relationship during that time. At least I got that little bit of vibe. And so maybe if something had happened back then, during the 2 to 5 years he was locked up, that later on he still listens to her because of this. And then when she got offended and he also got offended, Junior and Livia? Yeah, I want to say Lydia.
What moment?
It's mid-season, so you don't know it. Somebody, I think it's the guy who runs the Green Grove nursing home or retirement community.
Okay,
says that off screen is implying that Junior and Livia were fucking around, and Junior's talking to Tony in his doctor's office, and he's like, "Oh, you would think I would do that with my fucking brother's sister or brother's wife, blah, blah, all that shit," and then Carmela at one point says to Livia in her room at Green Grove something along the lines of, I know Junior stops by, you can give him these cookies or pie or whatever the fuck it was she brought.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you're implying something? And it's like, why are you both so fucking defensive?
Yeah.
So I think there may have been something. Yeah, exactly. So I think back in the fucking 60s, there may have been something going on.
Okay. So let's talk overall broad thoughts on the movie.
My broad thoughts are skewed a lot by the fact that I watched the first trailer.
Really? So, okay.
You watch the first trailer, which strictly all based around Tony Soprano, and it's the Tony Soprano story and all about Tony Soprano becoming who he was. And I didn't watch the second trailer, which made it more about Dickie Moltisanti.
Okay.
So I go into this, and it was advertised everywhere about it. They've been talking about it for years. Young Tony, Michael Gandolfini's playing him. Holy shit, his performance. And you go into it, and it's like, this isn't a movie about Tony.
Yeah.
Kind of fucking threw me off. Kind of skews my view on the movie, I think.
You know, we both, I guess, maybe I'm wrong. I thought we don't watch trailers. But you
Couldn't help it.
You saw this trailer.
Couldn't be helped.
So you've been influenced.
Yes.
Obviously, by what you just said.
But even without the trailer, this whole thing was pitched to be the Tony Soprano movie. You go to HBO Max, and the description, it's like, oh, the life of Tony Soprano. And it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
That you're going to pitch us. And like all the hype around the movie was Michael Gandolfini playing Tony.
Yeah.
So you're going into it thinking you're getting the Tony becoming a gangster movie, right when he first gets in.
I'm so glad I didn't see the trailer then.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
I got the only impression I really got was, yeah, he's going to be a big part of it. He's going to be there. But also, I learned this after watching Rogue One. Whatever you know or think you know before the movie, don't.
Yeah.
Just watch that movie
fucking A.
and experience that. From everything I knew, like you had pointed it out to me, maybe this is too much going in already. Moltisanti is many saints or multiple saints or whatever. So it's like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Moltisanti. Okay, so it's going to be his father. And I have vague memories of the show of Tony and Christopher parked outside of a place, and he's saying the guy in there is the guy who killed your dad.
A retired cop.
Yeah, and then Christopher goes to his house or something and kills him. Or doesn't. I don't remember. But like that's the only memory I had of it. So I didn't know if that is like a Memento moment where that's all bullcrap, or what, or if at some point in this movie I didn't know if we were going to see young Tony kill Dickie, or
I wouldn't have been shocked.
Yeah,
like that would seem very Tony.
I didn't know what was going to happen. In the end, it didn't look like they made it obvious, at least not to me, who did it or that it mattered. Maybe it was, and I totally missed it. Spoilers, he dies.
When Christopher, you know that from this series.
Yeah.
So when Tony does take Christopher, like inside that building is the guy who killed your father. He was a cop who's just now retired that night. It was his retirement party.
Yeah.
And he says, I think Christopher kind of is like a little bit like, well, why didn't you do something about it before? And he says, well, he was useful. Now he's not. Here's my gift to you. Here's his address. He gets in a car with Bacala and leaves. But when Christopher's at the guy's house and got him handcuffed to the railing of the stairs, the guy's saying, I didn't do it, blah, 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 all this shit. And you can kind of see Christopher believes him that he didn't do it. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. Or he's like, whoever told you I did it is lying to you. And he says, it doesn't matter if he is. He obviously wants you dead either way. And he mentions in there when he's sitting in the car with Tony, he's like, oh, yeah, that's the fucker who shot my father. Like, he's on drugs at the time. Like, and you can see him. He gets those big Christopher eyes that he does once in a while. So, yeah, he shot him carrying in a crib for me, right? Into the house. And he's like, TV trays, actually. But, just as easily could have been a crib.
Yeah.
And just one of the lines. So I knew. Okay.
So you knew when you see him in the back of the car that was when it was?
Well, when they were at the warehouse before that, and there we go, we got in all these dinette sets and TV trays.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, okay, he's about to get killed in the next scene. It could have still been the cop, though, because you don't really, at least I couldn't tell who the guy was who actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
So it could have been the cop. It could have been a cop. It could have easily been the same guy.
Yeah.
Or it could have just been any fucking dude. Who knows? It could have been Syl, for all I know.
There's definitely no mystery at all.
Who ordered
it? Like, when you see him walking across the street and the cameras barely even move down towards him, I'm like, oh, I guess he did it. Like, right away.
I saw that 20 miles away, though.
Yeah.
As soon as he laughed at him falling on the stairs.
This movie is multiple things in one. It is something I can take very seriously. The first half is really solid as far as tone. It's not giving me any trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Even some stuff later on was okay as far as not jumping out and making me roll my eyes, which I had a lot of. Was like when he's murdering what's her name, making her sleep with the fishes. I thought the tone there worked still as far as the way it was shot. Interesting, Sopranos way, like she's floating out and then one of the bigger waves and then she's just gone when the next wave comes down. Sopranos. to me. But where the movie falls apart for me is over referential, or referential, and to the point where it's almost like putting almost unwatchable. But huge moments of I'm on board. The Polly that they had was not over the top Polly. Bordered on getting close. He almost was, but Polly was so over the top, and that felt natural to who he was. But for me, the guy who plays Silvio, John Magaro,
Yeah.
however you might actually say it, he was really good in David Chase's movie Not Fade Away, which is directed by Chase. It's about guys who in a band in the 60s, and he was the main character in that movie, really good. But in this movie, he's too much cosplaying as Silvio, way too much. I got the implication from Silvio in the show that was kind of how he evolved. He evolved into that guy. He wasn't because what was he, maybe 30 in this movie?
Maybe.
Or younger? And he looked like he was a guy cosplaying Silvio in the last season. It felt like David Chase and director Alan Taylor were behind the camera watching him do the Silvio impression. And every time he did it more intense, they loved it, laughed, thought it was the greatest thing ever, and told him to do it again.
They told him, do it happier and with your mouth open more.
That was just a little much. There was a few moments in here that were Star Wars prequel, where it's like, we know this moment happens with how Star Wars is going to turn out over here or whatever. So we have to make it a big, dumb, obvious moment. Again, kind of like Rogue One I just brought up. But they literally have to show you weird references. Like in Rogue One, they bump into those two guys from the cantina.
Oh. Out
of nowhere. Junior falling down, and he just has to say his Junior lines. And
that pissed me off.
It was upsetting me.
Don't move, June. I just said don't move. Your sister's...
Oh, come on.
Call an ambulance. God damn it. Here you go. My hand. Sucker.
It's such a sadness when they're like nailing certain things and they just go for this bad Vulcan vending, huh?
The Breaking Bad going to Better Call Saul syndrome, where the first few episodes of Better Call Saul was remember Breaking Bad, remember Breaking Bad, remember Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
Yeah, I couldn't watch Better Call Saul because of that. And I know that it turns out better.
Amazing.
But like if this movie had been front loaded with that stuff, it would have been very hard for me to get through. Darth Vader, the whole prequels are setting up this kid's Darth Vader. There's that poster of Anakin with the Vader shadow. This movie had that so much, and almost annoyingly so. But it's surrounded by so much good. Anytime Bernthal's on screen, the movie's amazing. He's watching the black families moved into the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And Tony's mother in this, we can talk about 30 minutes on her. I think she was fantastic.
She did not cosplay. She was the character.
She was the character. And also, I think they tried to make her look a little like Edie Falco.
My wife kept bringing up, she looks like Carmella.
So it's almost leaning too much into Darth Vader territory of remember this, now it happens, and you're getting elements of that. But I think that, what's the kid's name? Michael
Gandolfini?
Yeah. I think he did a lot of it right. There was one scene in particular where it's right after the funeral and they go outside and under the umbrella. That moment there, a little weird. That's the one moment where it feels like him trying too hard to act. Maybe that could have been the first day or something. But most other moments, he was good enough for me, or it felt like young, awkward kid trying to be who he is. There's a moment where he's on the phone and he turns around to, was it young Artie Bucco?
It's Jackie.
Oh, that was Jackie.
I believe
that
that's Jackie Aprile.
He turns and he gives him that Tony. I can't do it, but when he turns and he's like what'd you say?
Fuck you say to me?
Did that work for you?
I saw that. That's in the trailer.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it did work though.
Okay, they shouldn't have put that in the trailer. That is when we saw that, we were like, ooh, he's got it.
Yeah.
That was a Tony look.
Yeah, and he's gonna do something. The version of Tony Soprano killing guy from the Matrix, Richie.
It's Richie. Yeah.
Richie, killing Richie, like that's brutal adult
No,
Tony.
it's not. It's Ralph Cifaretto. Sorry,
Yeah,
Ralph
Richie.
Cifaretto.
Yeah, wow.
Richie's Richie Aprile, Jackie's
Okay.
brother.
Wow. When he's killing Ralphie, that's adult Tony being full on adult Tony, like killing Christopher. And then the version of that when he's a kid is beating up or robbing
Pushing his friend around.
No, robbing the ice cream truck. And it's like, oh, okay. It's kind of lame, but I get it and it works. It makes sense. I wish the whole movie was slower and softer. Don't quote or even think about referencing anything. If you're going to, just make it the light amount that we had with Polly and Sal. Like just very little.
He made this face the majority of the time, like
Yeah.
like Rocky Balboa face, and I was like, is he trying to do a Tony Soprano face? Because I've never seen Tony Soprano make that face. And I was like, or is that what he really thinks of his father in real life? He's like, duh, I'm fucking,
Oh, no.
I'm James Gandolfini. He was honestly really good. There was a moment when he's sitting in the kitchen with his mother, and he's like, I'm always accused. That exact moment for me was that big moment of like, you hit the character. You saying that some people were cosplaying as the characters, like
Yeah.
The guy playing Silvio Dante.
Yeah.
I did like the little nod to the real character or the real actor of Steve Van Sant,
Yeah.
that he's bald, because Steve Van Sant in real life had an accent where he doesn't have a lot of hair on his head. You see him wearing a bandana a lot, especially on stage.
Oh.
And so it's showing, hey, there's a little nod to the character. Silvio's just a prematurely bald guy, so it's always been fake hair. So it's kind of a nod to the actor. But I did not like it because it came off way too comical.
It comes off as, because I don't know that, the probably broad audience or even people who are big fans of the show don't
Most
know
people
that.
don't know that.
And so I see him with his hair hanging off, and it almost ruins the movie.
Yeah, like if he would have just, like there's one part where he just walked away and the shoulders had just a little right hunch to it.
Yeah.
That, leave out all the cosplay, and I would have been in love with the character.
Here's when I knew that the Polly was appropriate. 2 moments where he wasn't over the top to me. Maybe I'm reading it wrong and a lot of people hated it. They didn't prematurely give him the wings. There's riots going on in this movie. It's set in a perfect time. It's got this atmosphere to it that's just happening in the world, and I really liked that element of the movie. But they drive by the front of the store, and he's like, I wonder if who they're gonna accuse of doing this or whatever. Yeah. Polly, all the way. This is the guy who's gonna kill an old woman with a pillow. That worked for me. Harold, him and Polly have like a little moment. Polly was pretty Polly there.
The way he just stood up and kind of tried to stand there
Did
being
he do
intimidated.
that little-
He kind of had the hands up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Because Polly is one of the standout characters from the show.
And what's great is he's just who that guy, who Tony Cicero,
Yeah.
I can never pronounce it, is.
Yeah.
That's just apparently a lot of just who he is.
From the moment he's on screen for me, and the very little they don't overdo it with him. Like I don't know if it's the actor or their decisions or whatever, but they didn't do enough with him that it bothered me, or he was so tame that it worked. But he's going along like this, like, oh wow, this is okay. Nothing unbelievable or that's just gonna peak and kill it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when Silvio's on screen, like it's instant.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The guy playing Pussy looked enough like
Oh, yeah.
young Pussy and just was sat back and just kind of quiet
Yeah.
and just off to the side and nailed it. Like, it was good. I thought for a minute Joey Diaz was going to have been Pussy's father.
Thought that would have been great. Can we talk about Joey Diaz for a
Yes,
minute?
go for it.
Why do we have to have this giant fucking footprint of house that we live in? You know? And this
Because
guy-
you're getting paid, bitch. If I want to live in a fucking cell, I'll live in a fucking cell like a monkey. I'm gonna live in a fold-up bed like I'm James Bond, like some fucking Puerto Rican that gets a check on the 5th. Go fuck your mother.
Fucking nailed a Sopranos character.
He did.
But that's him in real life as well. He's that guy acting the way he did.
He is the guy who should have been in Sopranos.
Yes.
I don't know why he wasn't. Was he not big enough at the time? Was he just not in the right circle?
Yeah, I don't think he was running in the right circles at the time. He might have still been doing crazy shit like he does.
Oh yeah, because he's got a history. I'm not aware of his history.
Oh, he was like crackhead running around running drugs and like he
Allegedly.
moved from state to state. Oh, he don't give a fuck. He doesn't say allegedly. He just talks about it.
Because everything's great in a small space till somebody blows a fucking fart. You ever walk into a bathroom after somebody else shit? It fucking bothers you. Even if they're your mother, you look at them like, you dirty fucking bitch, light a candle.
Him in this role works perfect. His last line.
I would eat his shit.
Oh,
Then Dickie's reaction to that, and then
Just the canoe.
seeing Joey Diaz's head split open in computer graphics on screen, one of the funniest moments ever, but also tragic. I think he pulled it off. It's a bummer that he wasn't in it more, but at the same time, I don't want him in it more because then I can take the movie more serious. But the movie, I can't take the movie serious because of what it already did, so they may as well have just made it
had Joey Diaz in every scene.
Story.
I was gonna say that in watching this with my wife, it was every time a new person was on screen, it became a game of who is this character? Which person are they supposed to be? Which is kind of sucks going into watching something like this because you want to enjoy it for what it is, but it's hard not to do that.
Yeah.
Like when Paulie first appeared on screen, she wasn't sure who it was. And I'm like, that's Paulie because he was messing with his nails. I'm like, that's a very Paulie thing. He's doing his nails.
Yeah.
And there's scenes in Sopranos where he's at a nail salon getting his nails done.
Yeah. He's lifting weights in the movie.
Yeah.
Very Pauly. I had the same issue. Me and Grettles are watching it, and we're just so bombarded with things. Like if they made a movie that was, I bring this up a lot. We were watching a Lost prequel, it's set in Dharma days, and it's like 1981, and we haven't seen this section of Dharma. What happens here? And there's so many little moments that they throw into like as a nod. Because I'm not as familiar with Sopranos. If it was a Lost movie, it would have been even worse. Can't pay attention to what's happening because I'm just thinking about all these little references. And I had a lot of that already with this.
He's going to shoot through her hair. I hate it. This is the prequels.
But at the same time, there were a lot, because it's focused around Dickie and we know little about him, everything that he's doing is fresh and new to me and not relying on a reference for the most part. So I'm just watching a story, and I think you can tell early on, oh, this is a fall arc, and what they say, where a character starts up here and then they just spiral.
Decline hard.
So his on-screen presence is really good. He feels like a strong man, like you look up to. And there's a little bit of that early on in the movie, especially when he's holding little Tony. He knows what he's doing in the world. But then moments where he kind of cracks in even early on, where you're like, oh, this is just a dumb gangster kid still. Anytime he's with Ray Liotta, you can really see that. And then when he murders Ray Liotta, because I obviously didn't think that he killed him right away in the scene.
Neither did I.
I was slightly spoiled. The only thing I think I really knew about, Ray Liotta was in the movie. I saw an image of what looked like Ray Liotta in prison.
I had that too. So I'm like, he's not dead yet.
Yeah. So
and then he lights him on fire. I'm like, how does he get out of this?
Well, okay.
I thought they were giving us The Last of Us 2. They show Joel throughout the game. And then when he dies early on, you don't know. You're like, ah, shit, they got me. And that's what I did. I was like, oh, they got me.
Oh, did you watch The Last of Us trailers too?
No, it was just out there. Like, it was a thing everybody was talking about. And I can't remember.
That Joel was in the game a lot?
That Joel was in the game a lot. They put him over the place of that one guy.
Jesse,
yeah. And then you play the game and you're like, oh, shit, he's dead early. I thought they did that to us with Ray Liotta.
Okay.
As a distraction.
That's the only spoiler I had, was seeing what looked like maybe Ray Liotta in prison. So when he's dead, when he's officially trying to hide the body in the garage from Tony, I went, oh, I guess he's it. I guess he is dead. And I must have misremembered. Maybe that was a different movie, that picture of Ray Liotta. And so
looking exactly the same.
Well, I think Hollywood Dickie, is that what they call him? Hollywood Dickie? I think he was a lot like thicker looking, like me to you difference.
Yeah.
Of like prison him looked pretty thin, and his attitude was like, I really liked his calm, like very matter of fact. And probably the biggest laugh I had, enjoyed the moment laugh I had in the movie, was him caught up in his moment of, I thought it was a fantasy about helping deaf kids play baseball, but by the end, it's not.
That was amazing.
and then when it cuts back, Ray Liotta's just gone, and I laughed so hard. And I was like, this is Sopranos, yeah, but it's also like almost more cartoony than Sopranos. And it was, I enjoyed it so much. And then because the original show did some things to make you wonder, is this real or is this real? What happened here? I was like, wait, was he even there? Was that character real? Just for a second.
It's possible.
But with this movie, because of what it did, I don't care enough to think about it
Yeah.
or to know the answer.
Something that the show had that this stride for was humor. This became a comedy movie about gangsters, like when you got Silvio's hair flying around and shit. And Sopranos, the humor just came naturally, was just in there, and it was a dark humor.
Yeah.
This was trying to make things funny.
Yeah, it did. Well, okay, that scene is another example of what you just said, but also the difference between the Pauly actor and the great actor who played Silvio badly is Pauly gets blood all over his shirt, and that worked for me. He was upset by it, his new jacket or whatever. But then the hair falling off of what's his name in the same scene, right? Wasn't that the same scene?
I think it was, yeah, because he shoots him as he's running at him with his hair falling off.
That's when I first noticed, like, maybe, no, I think a blip before that, but that's where it really went, whoa, for me with him.
Yeah.
I want to stop bringing him up, but it's almost impossible.
When I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Voices from Hell.
The movie starts with people talking. It's confusing. I didn't get it. It's moving past graves. One grave, a woman, one grave, a man, then the Moltisanti grave. And then it's him talking. And so for a minute, I thought we were just hearing overlapping dialogue from like a meeting or something. And then it kind of, is it an AA meeting or something? And then, Christopher's talking. Oh, it kind of sounds like he's at an AA meeting. But, no. He's talking to us. Oh, he's dead. He's talking to us. What? But I rewatched the opening scene and then the very last moment again. And so he's in hell. And it's that whole Carmela thing of the difference is you're going to hell when you die, that moment.
Yeah.
But focused on it as like a theme, but it's barely a theme in the movie. It's like an opener and a closer.
He's a ghost? I don't know.
These people are in hell telling us why they're in hell. Is that what that is?
I actually think that this is a theory.
Okay.
That the Many Saints of Newark is a movie written by Christopher Moltisanti after death.
Oh, wow.
And he writes a movie about his father finally and makes this movie somehow in hell. It doesn't work, and that's why it's not the same Sopranos tone. It's Christopher making a movie. Think about Cleaver. It wasn't a good horror movie. But Ghostbusters, I mean...
Ghostbusters, another fucking money machine.
Would he have portrayed Pauly so well and Silvio so bad?
This is...
But he's trying to be
Look at
legitimate.
Cleaver, which Cleaver was a parallel of his life with the boss, and he thinks the boss is fucking his girl, and the meeting in the basement, it was all based off reality. So when Christopher matures, he's dead, and he's mature now, and he makes a good movie, and he tells things a little more true.
Okay.
And now he doesn't really have the hatred towards Pauly. He wouldn't. He's dead. He's beyond those things. But he has a hatred towards Tony for killing him.
But he sounded zen about it.
Oh, it was so mellow. But
yeah.
He also could have had a little harboring something against Tony for choking him to death.
Yeah.
And so his best friend, the guy he's always fucking buddies with, Silvio, I'm going to make him a fucking clown in my movie then if Tony loves it so much.
I really liked the tone when he says, after he murdered me, he gave my widow and child his pocket change. But that was much later. Just the way he kind of like...
There was... Even in that, though, the Voices from Hell, he was throwing out references that were kind of annoying me. Which worked, though, for what it was. Because he's like, there's my Uncle Tony, the guy I went to hell for. Earlier on, he says... In the show, he says to Adriana, my Uncle Tony, the guy I'm going to hell for.
Yep.
Like El Camino did, where they closed up some mysteries. I thought they were going to close up some mysteries for us, like the ending of Sopranos. And I thought he was going to show Tony and Dickie standing next to each other. There's his uncle, the guy he went to hell for. I was waiting for that line. That never came. Then you go, oh, Tony did die. He did, but...
And they literally have him go back to the diner he died at the end. He was in the diner that he gets shot in.
I didn't even notice, but now that I think about it, I saw production stills where he was there.
Yeah, so... And wasn't that around footage of... Like, wasn't that right after the funeral? Or when was that?
Silvio says to Dickie, I'll have him meet you somewhere in the morning, blah, blah. And that's when he goes there.
And it's all centered around Dickie being dead. And then you show him going to that diner. It's just more of him saying, yeah, Tony's dead. at the end. Let's talk about actors for a second.
Joey
Dickie.
Diaz.
Joey Diaz. Joey Diaz is great, but the guy who played Dickie, great.
Amazing.
Have I seen him in anything else? I'm curious.
Go look at his IMDb and you look at what he looks like when he's not in character. Does not look like the same guy, so it
Really?
appears he can just become anybody.
His appearance and his look in the opening, not opening, the wedding scene, which felt like The Godfather. Introducing, I think they introduced Tony's dad there. What's his name in them?
Johnny Boy Soprano.
Johnny, yeah. That was cool. I think that the Janice was fantastic. Just her face and her like little attitude was perfect.
On the topic of Silvio Dante, something that bothered me with him, I'd hate to bring him up one more time.
Yeah.
He was prematurely balding, but he was also seen to be much older and with the group more and one of the guys.
Yeah.
So I had a real problem with that because I believe Ralph Cifaretto, when he's talking to Jackie Jr., tells him a story about Tony, Jackie, and Silvio, I believe, robbing Feach Lamont's card game. And that's how they made their mark and became on their fast track to getting made.
Yeah.
So at this point, it looks like Silvio's already deep in with the guys. He's murdering people with them.
Yeah. He looks very
And he looks
involved.
very older. Even when Tony, at the beginning of the movie, is young, he's hanging out with the guys. He's not Tony's friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was so weird.
And then I had to go look it up and to make sure. Tony Soprano was born in 1959.
Yeah.
Silvio Dante is born in 1957. He's 2 years older. So when Tony was 10 years old in the beginning of the movie, Silvio is 12, balding and hanging out with the gang. There's a major fuck up here. That instantly soured me to the fucking movie.
Yeah. I had an indication that you were gonna really like the movie, but you do like parts of it, right? Really
There's parts of it I love.
Yeah.
That just nailed Sopranos.
I wish that those peak moments were the whole movie, obviously, or alternatively, I wish that it was all bad. Please be one or the other, because when it's both, it's I don't know how to feel about it. Where if it was just a really bad movie that's just constantly making references to here's Tony, can't you tell he's gonna be an evil villain?
He's smart and he's a leader.
Yeah, and like you could literally show like a Russian guy step on Paulie's shoe or something, say, "Hey, I'm gonna get you someday" or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, where did that guy go?" And you turn around, you can't find him all of a sudden, or some stupid dumb thing like that, or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, don't go out to the Pine Barrens, you're gonna get lost," or some stupid moment. It could have been a whole movie of that, and I would have enjoyed it for being bad. But since it's got moments that are some of the legitimately making me feel like I'm watching Goodfellas. Like there's some moments in here that are up there and then not at the same time. Vera Farmiga, I think, is the name of the woman playing Tony's mother. And I think you said it earlier.
Vera Farmiga, yeah.
She is the character. Yeah. So everything is much like her in the show is all about her, but even as well as she's playing the character aside, I have the same feeling that I had watching the first season of the show, where you can tell that this is David Chase's mother. Mm-hmm. And there was a quote I saw from Chase because we were watching it back when we watched season 1, like last year. David Chase had told the actor like he was directing her or giving her ideas for the character, and at some point said something like, I hope this monster or something is dead already or something. And he's like, yeah, she is. Or something like that, implying, I can tell you want me to be your mother. And I can tell that this is a insane character in person. I hope she's dead. So we're not like, doing this about a person who's still alive.
I'm going to put a hit out on me.
And I could still feel it in this movie. It felt like the same vibe. So the character, it works for me. The hair moment I saw coming, and I was like, please don't do it.
It was a reference back to the show.
Yeah. And I always had the impression that Tony was there when that happened. Was Tony not there?
I can't remember who. I remember the story. I can't even remember who told the story in the original show. So I can't remember the details of it.
It was either Tony telling and Janet getting upset by it, or Janet saying it and Tony getting upset by it, right?
It's Janice, right? You keep saying Janet.
Janice.
Janice.
No, I'm Janice. That's my little girl. Her name's Domenica.
Sweet as she looks, she left my stove on purpose. Put the flame out with a wet dish rag. I caught her.
Something that made her character so great is there wasn't her saying all the classic Livia lines of like, I wish I was dead, or she wasn't doing that shit.
Yeah.
She still had more room to grow to be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like Ellie from Last of Us 2 again. You're doing this to yourself. Like, you don't have to be in this much misery. You can stop this at any time, but you're just making it harder for yourself. It's almost like she enjoys it. Like her and Johnny that's just how they are. That's how it works and whatever. And then when he dies,
he was a saint.
Yeah, he was a saint. And then she's just
one of many.
One of many. I don't know. She just sits in that, I guess, for 20, 30 years or however long he's dead. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how Johnny dies of
cancer.
Cancer,
I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It might not have been cancer. Ooh.
Again, it's like poetry. So if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
I have to read it because I can't pronounce it. It's Michelle de Rossi is the Hollywood Dick's wife that he brings from Italy, and then she gets involved with Dickie. She was good. I really liked her. Yeah. I didn't have any problems with the her acting, the character. It was all intriguing. I was confused a few times if whether or not I'm actually seeing her or someone else.
Or his wife.
Yeah.
They looked very similar. I thought because he mentions that his wife can't have kids, but then suddenly he has Christopher around when we get a jump forward in time. And he's hanging out with this chick more. So I thought he actually ditched his wife and got with her. That's my confusion. So
I think that's what I thought. Something like that.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And then you saw her again. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because the actresses kind of looked similar when you're quickly watching the movie for the first time.
Yeah. And then when she's with Harold in like a hotel room or something, I was like, is that like for a minute? I didn't know it was her. And then it was like, oh, that's her. Oh, I guess it's not her. What? I was confused. Oh, it is her. Like that shouldn't probably not be happening.
She had that mole on her chin. Is the only thing that can save it. Yeah.
Like, okay, we see her in that scene. Okay, mole. All right. If we see a lady with a mole,
like turn your mole towards the camera.
Yeah, exactly. She was really good, and I liked her death scene. I liked it. Did you not like it?
No, I was fine with it. Like you said, the floating away felt very Sopranos. It was shot oddly, but it worked.
Really?
Definitely. As she's saying what she's saying, I'm like, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
You're fucking dumb.
Yep. Yeah, Grettles and I were just like, she's a corpse.
Like she didn't know that like she had been fucking his like enemy who probably wasn't as big of an enemy at the time when she was fucking him. But it's like, oh, this is like the worst time to bring up that you're banging this dude.
Yeah. And
she could have said, I'm fucking Tony, and it would have been better.
Yeah, he would have been like, what? And that would have been in Tony's character too.
Oh, it would.
She sleeps with the fishes.
Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
Yeah. Luca.
Yeah.
Luca. I liked the way it was shot. It was just too blue for me. Like they were trying to make it look too wintry. Put big jackets on them and make it look too wintry. Maybe it was shot. I don't know when it was shot. Summertime. I don't know. But just the color timing was a little blue. But I really liked the way it was shot. And it was almost confusingly unwatchable for a moment. But it was all in his head. The director, I think, did some Game of Thrones.
And I think 1 or 2 episodes of the original.
Yeah. Tony's almost not even a main character. And I didn't...
He felt forced into it.
Yeah, kind of. Luckily, I wasn't influenced into thinking that he was going to be huge. I kind of did, but not really. So to me, it was Dickie and the Harold character were the 2 main characters.
Great character, too.
Yeah. And I was a little confused at first. I thought it was just going to be like a side thing early on. But I almost wish that I had seen trailers and posters and that the posters and trailers were Dickie on one side, Harold on the other. And it's like pinned around that more, because if you see this movie, probably only think about that and they cut out all the references to the other stuff. This could be a really cool time, like a period piece of this crime family versus this guy who's mixed up in this time and this point in history. He almost feels like a Italian mobster fanboy. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Kylo Ren a little bit. And he was a good actor. I believed him in many scenes. And when he was with the lady in the hotel room, I was like, I don't know. I was like, wow, this is surprising and interesting. And then he's behind the scenes. They're building him up. It was, have you seen No Country for Old Men?
Yeah. I don't want to introduce you to it.
Okay. They're building him up like sugar. This is going to happen. And just like him, it's a subversion. He's not the big finale. And because Thanos gets killed off screen in that movie. Spoilers. And then Tommy Lee Jones doesn't actually face him really. It's more about other ideas and themes. And in this movie, he doesn't face off. They do face off with him and Dickie face off kind of. And they look through each other through that shotgun hole in the wall cartoon moment.
Yeah.
And then that's it. You see what's his name building up he's going to get more involved. He's got another gun. More stuff's going to happen. And then it doesn't really. Unless he's the one who kills Dickie.
Like Junior worked with him, had him do it. It's possible. But
Maybe there's a scene we're missing where him and Junior have seen each other or look at each other in a certain way. And they might have actually in the lounge scene where Paulie's getting mad. The movie ends with that moment, which was interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't hate that.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't hate that. It was kind of
Think about
cool.
how Tony sees things that aren't there.
Yeah. And it felt like Tony to me. And then credits and then boom. A mid-credits where you're with Harold.
They're moving into a nice neighborhood.
And it's kind of going up. And you remember the moment with Johnny where he's like, you're letting them move into the neighborhood, whatever. And then it just cuts away. And at that moment, I was like, oh, I kind of get what he was going for here. There was something cool there, some element, but it's buried in all this reference and remember when. So if the movie had just been guy versus guy, there's a lady involved and they both know the lady and he's trying to be a good father to Tony that his father wasn't to him, but really he's just pre-Tony before Tony. That could have been a really good movie. But it's way too focused on Remember Sopranos.
Yeah, take out Remember Sopranos, call it Many Saints of Newark, a Sopranos story, where the other characters are there. You can have your remember moments in the fact that they exist. The people are there and they exist.
Yeah.
And then you have a solid fucking movie. And then I'd be like, holy shit. You know, give me the fucking story about when Johnny dies. You know?
Yeah.
Then give me the story about Eckley.
And you, Eckley.
Eckley Soprano, Tony's half-witted uncle.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, give me the story about that guy. And make it a serious movie about a guy in a mental ward. And it's based off a Sopranos character.
And then it's the same place that Junior ends up.
What did he say? I can't.
I really want to I want to love this movie.
I do too.
And but I also want to love it in a bad way, but I can't do either. And I know I need to rewatch it. It's going to be hard for me to rewatch it, but I have to rewatch it for tone and for a post outside, what do they call it when something's dead and you look at it? Not an autopsy.
An autopsy?
Yeah. Pre-mortem?
Post-mortem?
Post-mortem. Pre-mortem. Post-mortem on the movie. That's what I need to do. I need to look at it and say, what in this kills it for me? And what in it is really good, and then figure out what I get out of it, and I might be able to like it more.
I think I could agree with that.
Maybe I'll just stop after the first half or something, because I don't know if you had the same opinion, but the first half was really good.
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, this movie is fucking carried by the guy playing Dickie, who also should have played a young Richie Aprile instead, though.
Yeah.
Because when I first saw stills from the set, I was like, holy shit, they're putting Richie Aprile in this.
Yeah, I think you had shown me a picture of him or something, and I was like, yeah.
I'm surprised that you didn't see the guy walking by wearing the jacket. I had to manage my expectations going in. I said this to my wife before we watched it.
Yeah.
I said they're going to have a lot of trouble. They're going to try and tell a great story in 2 hours, when normally you have 10-hour season to give me a whole story arc.
Yeah.
And that's how the show was great, is they could drag out these things. Not drag them out, but you had time to expand.
Yeah.
And
let it boil.
Yeah. Now we just had to jam it all in quick. But it could have worked. Look at Goodfellas. That's a fucking story that was told in 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was great. And I had a lot of Goodfellas vibes here. Like
I did.
Feeling. And then when you got Ray Liotta on screen, and isn't what's funny is he plays like Irish in Goodfellas because he's not actually, I can't be a made guy. And then they say, he's one of the guys.
He's just one of them, yeah.
His performance is pretty good. At first I didn't like him as Hollywood, but because he was seemed over the top like Feech Lamont was in Sopranos show. Like, super hostile angry. I'm like, he's trying so hard to be a Sopranos character.
But that's just
just that guy.
And the fact that he's called Hollywood Dick and having the flip version of him.
Yeah.
Good. And that also would have helped if this was the dual movie. Like I said, you have two sides.
Did you notice the story of Oedipus? The story of Oedipus was this king and his wife had a kid, and then there was a prophecy that he would kill him. His son was going to kill him and take his wife. So he sent him away far with a shepherd, like, hey, or whoever it was, and said, hey, go kill my kid out in the woods. He's like, I feel bad. I'm going to pass him on to somebody else to raise him. And
can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I'm interrupting your story because I think I know where you're going. And Girdles and I said it during the screening. Are you saying that Ray Liotta in prison is his father?
No.
Okay, because we thought that. I still might think that.
That's possible. The attitudes on him are
the way that they were
acts
talking.
more like him. So, anyways, Oedipus gets sent away, and then he grows up and he hears something about this bad king guy, and he goes and he whacks the motherfucker and takes the wife. Takes King's wife, his mom, and starts fucking her.
Go fuck your mother.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of stories about Oedipus back in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And this was that story, the Oedipus thing, which is always a thing they was kind of brought up with Tony, having an attraction towards people like his mother. And so Tony just grew up to become Dickie. He idolized this guy.
Yeah.
And Dickie's just as much of a piece of shit as Tony was.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. Like they were kind of the same character.
No, absolutely. The influence, the way he's always looking up to him or whatever.
Yeah. And
he
got a
wants
nephew.
to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a nephew that's not his nephew, but I'm going to take him in like he's my nephew.
Yeah.
And it would just, I kind of liked that.
This movie is a good example of wasted potential.
Yes.
And also, because they say a Star Wars story underneath this movie, it makes me think of a Star Wars story, Disney wanted to do Han Solo, they wanted to do Boba Fett, they all, Obi-Wan, all these ideas early on. And then it seems like oversaturation and too much referentialness and too much trying to just give the audience something that they think that they'll like to where it just kills it. I wonder if David Chase had at some point, because he puts a Soprano story, had wanted to do more, or if he still wants to do more. Basically what I'm getting at is this one's way too filled with stuff that he could have spread out over a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
They mentioned Hesh once, and it was, even his mention was almost too much. But if it was at least that light of references all the way through, give us that bare minimum of remember Sopranos and give us a good story, and it'll be really good.
Because they did do a bit of, hey, this is Pussy. Hey, remember Pussy?
Yeah.
But the guy killed it is just sitting there with the look on his face looking like Pussy.
Yeah.
Literally just make a movie. Don't tell me their fucking names. Let me figure out who they are. Like Jackie Aprile, I didn't know was Jackie Aprile until I went and looked at IMDb again. It's
Really?
like, okay, he is in here. That had to be him. It's the right age, for him to be Jackie.
I kept looking for Artie Bucco.
Artie was in there.
Where was he?
When they were young and he's hanging out with that other kid doing stuff.
that was
Artie Bucco.
Okay.
Which
I'm
is
surprised they didn't give him the Stannis haircut.
Yeah, you look at the other guy, you're like, oh, there's Artie Bucco. And I would be like, all right, that's just what it is. He's like Carl from Aqua Teen.
Yeah.
He's been bald since he was a child. Weird seeing Artie being more into doing stuff, gonna do crazy shit.
Was he part of the ice cream truck thing too?
I think he was, yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And it's like, okay, yeah, when Artie's young, he's doing that. But he says a line, he's like, oh, my father's probably gonna make me take over his restaurant. Because he asked Tony what he wants to do when he gets older, and he says he wants to play in the NFL. And Artie's like, yeah, my dad's probably gonna make me take over his stupid fucking restaurant. Something along those lines. So that's your giveaway. Oh, there's Artie Bucco.
There was a really good Sopranos moment that reminds me of like some of the stuff in the last season. Like even in the final episode, there's a few really funny moments of someone says one line, cut away. And in this, it was Tony getting money from other kids, and then the kid stands up and he's like, I won or whatever, and then just hard cut. And this movie might be going for a few moments of the unexplained, out of place moments that you had in the original, where it's like, oh, I hate to bring it up, but where did the Russian go? Or weird stuff like that, where things are unintentionally or intentionally ambiguous or not explained or almost out of place. There was a little bit of that. but I don't know if that's appropriate in a movie, a 2-hour movie that's supposed to be. He, like you said before we started recording, David, she said this is a movie film for theaters or whatever, and it doesn't feel like that. It feels like you have to sit down and watch the whole Sopranos run and know every single moment from front to back, and then go to a theater and watch the movie.
If you're like the guy like me who knows every little bit of Sopranos, like I know who the fuck Eckley is, shit like that. I know, all the dumb, stupid facts of the show.
What's the name of the FBI guy? Do you know his name?
Agent Harris.
Okay.
Yeah.
That moment at the end in the last episode with him.
We're going to win this thing.
Yeah, and then Doug's coming in.
But, okay, they make this a movie about references. It's almost a game of I Spy. Oh, yeah. I spy a movie. I spy a reference. I spy a reference. And then to get shit wrong. Because this movie would only be in any way super appealing. Maybe to people who aren't super into, like, deep cinema. Or, like, I don't like to think of myself as, oh, I'm so cool. I'm a Siskel and Ebert. I like movies, But we're really into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who's like that, but super into Sopranos, you can get some okay enjoyment out of it, but I'm still let down that it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
But somebody who just super into Sopranos, but isn't like this movie person into that kind of shit that much, they're going to love the shit out of it because they're playing I Spy everywhere.
Yeah.
But then if you're getting those people that know every little fucking detail, make Tony and fucking Silvio the right ages.
Yeah. I see what you're saying is, you're diving so deep into detail and then getting half the details wrong.
Yeah.
It's just.
And there's some details you could get wrong.
Yeah.
It could be totally tweaked the way he fucking died. Because the only time we ever hear anybody talk about it is Tony saying it. Tony's a fucking narcissistic liar.
Yep.
So that could have been totally different. But things like the actual character existing and being different ages or whatever, that's the biggest one I have a fucking problem with.
Yeah.
Those things you better have fucking right.
Yeah. For me, it's some tonal things and then just a couple performances that just screw with me. But overall, if I rewatch it, it'll probably go up from where where it is in my head now. But in my mind, this was a streaming movie at best. Where are you going to rank it?
For me, it's a movie. Maybe on a rewatch, it could come up to flick.
Wow. So my spot up on cinema is different. I'm just kidding. It's a movie. It's a movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a movie. We watched it on HBO Max. It's a movie. In my mind, I see this movie as a masterpiece. Like, wow, picture that Sopranos, Dickey, Moltisanti movie. Like,
set in the 60s.
David Chase,
70s.
One of the last like major big things. I don't want to like sound like I think he's gonna die tomorrow, but like
he's an older guy.
He's an older guy. Him and George Martin. He made this really awesome 2-hour epic of 60s, early 70s Sopranos lore movie, and it could have been so damn good. And John Bernthal is playing Johnny Soprano.
I thought we were gonna get that movie.
Oh, and he brought the Gandolfini's son back to play young Tony. And it could have been this like Goosebumps masterpiece movie for someone who's so into that show. And I really like the show, especially the ending. And it just wasn't that. But not to say that it wasn't good or people didn't put their all into it. It's really good at times. But it's okay. I'd rather watch the show again.
I'd rather watch the show every day over and over and over like I do.
The show's really long though. Side note, I don't know how it happened, but you had saw the movie a day before me, so I knew, I better get on this so that we're both fresh on it. And so it was planned. Griddles was going to finish work, and then we were going to watch it after he was done.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing that for about like 5 hours or so, and I was like, I can use that time to get a good nap in because he works graveyard. So I'm going to sleep, wake up. And about the time he's ready to wind down, I'll be winding up for the day, and we could watch Sopranos at that perfect moment.
Catch each other in that crossbar.
Which that happens sometimes when we want to watch like a big thing, like when Rebuild of Ava's last movie came out on Amazon. We both like caught it at that moment. And so I'm like, okay, I can get good 5 hours of sleep. It's almost what happened this morning. I didn't go to sleep, and instead I turned on Amazon and watched Night Riders by George Romero. It is just after Dawn of the Dead and a few years before Day of the Dead. And I'm not kidding. It's his best movie.
Wow.
It's better.
I haven't seen that.
It might be better than Day of the Dead. And it's got so many familiar faces in it. And it is... we need to have a whole episode on it. But
I'm down.
It's Dazed and Confused, Wes Anderson, Dawn of the Dead, Boogie Nights. It's all those movies directed by George Romero. Watching that before All Saints Day was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because it was the same feeling I had when I walked out of like a Birdman or something like that, where I was like a high on the movie of like, wow, that was so good. Because one of the main characters in Knight Riders is Tom Savini, like main character.
Wow, really?
And you get to see how good he is. And he does a lot of stunts too. Again,
I have another Romero movie you should watch. It's on HBO right now.
Yeah,
Monkey Shines.
Monkey Shines.
It's the only other Romero movie I've seen aside from the Dead movies. I remember watching it on IFC years ago, and really I liked it and didn't like it.
Yeah,
but worth watching.
I'll live in a fucking cell like a monkey.
Neither one of the two movies we're talking about has Joey Diaz in them, so they're not worth talking about.
They're selling more guns than ever the last 3 days. Stop with the fucking whining. Stop with the Russians on Facebook. I don't give a fuck. Worry about yourself. Keep your eyes open and get the fuck off Snapchat and fucking Twitter, cocksucker. Stay black.